Before we start this video, a large thank you to William Page, Noah Seraphin, and Bazooka for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright guys, we got a bit of a long one today, so today we're going to actually add backstabbing into our game. We're going to make it so you can backstab the player or the enemy. So first I'm going to go in here to my player controls, and what I want to do is I want to go to actions, and I'm just going to duplicate RB, and we're just going to hit duplicate there, and I'm going to drag this down here. I'm going to call it something like critical attack. And we're going to use this because in Dark Souls when you hold the right bumper, so we're going to add an interaction to this right now. We're going to make it hold. I'm going to keep it on the default settings, which is 0.5 and 0.4. So yeah, you actually have to hold the right bumper in Dark Souls to riposte or backstab an enemy. Just tapping it won't actually allow you to do either of those attacks. So next we're going to go to the input handler. Sorry, not manager. I'm getting my projects crossed. And we're going to add the critical attack input. Alright, so going up here, right below the RT input, I'm going to say public bool critical attack input. And now we have to add it on the enable, and then we have to make a function for it. So let's say input actions, dot player actions, critical attack, dot performed, whoops, can't type today, dot performed, plus equals I equals greater than critical attack input equals true. So when we use the critical attack input, it makes the critical attack input bool true. Down here we're going to say private void handle critical attack input. The reason why I'm calling it critical attacks is because we're going to use this for reposting also. So we're going to say if critical attack input. First we want to say critical attack input equals false, and then we're going to actually trigger a function on the player attacker. We don't have it made yet, but I'm going to call it attempt backstab or riposte. Alright, so we actually don't have that made, so let's just comment that out, and let's go make this functionality. So let's go to the player attacker, and I'm going to come down here to attack actions. I think I'm going to put it in here. Let's see. I'll put it right here in attack actions. So we're going to say private void attempt backstab or riposte. I'm actually going to move this. Let's copy this and get it out of attack actions. I'm going to put it in its own thing. So for now, we'll just put it down here. Okay, so what do we got to do first? Well, we're going to make a Raycast hit. So we're actually going to be shooting a Raycast out of our player when we hold the right bumper. And we're going to say if physics dot Raycast, and then we need to make the starting position. So we're going to say input manager dot critical attack Raycast start point, which I don't have made yet. And we're going to say dot position. And then we're going to say it's going out to transform direction vector 3 dot forward. So it's going to move out forward. And then we're going to say out, and we're going to use our hit, which is our Raycast variable, and we're going to make the distance as 0.5 f. And we're going to scan on the layer for backstab layer, which we don't have made yet either. Okay, so let's actually make these variables. So we need to actually create the critical attack Raycast start point first. This is where the Raycast is actually going to come out of your player. So I'm going to make a transform. I'm going to say public transform, and again, we're going to call it, I'm just going to copy this actually, and then paste it. And the reason why we want this is because we don't want to use just our transform, because then the Raycast will come out of the ground at our feet, and we don't want that. We also have to make the backstab layer. So let's do that right now. I'm going to go over here and click on my player, ignore those errors, and I'm going to say add layer. And I'm going to say backstab. Then I'm going to come over here. Oh, we're actually going to have to deal with those errors because I can't actually add in the transform until we deal with those errors. So let's go up here and say layer mask backstab layer. And I'm going to say that equals 1 less than 12. Because it's on layer 12. And all this means is we're going to search on layer 12. Okay, now let's add the input manager. Oh, it's actually already there. I have it called Input Handler. I keep getting my projects mixed up. Okay, so let's change that to Handler. And there we go. Cool. Now we should be able to add the transform on our player. Alright, so let's go down here. I'm going to right click and add a new empty game object. I'm going to call this Raycast start points in case we use any more in the future. I don't think we're going to, but you never know. So I'm going to call this one critical attack Raycast start point. And then I'm going to go into scene view, make sure I click on my player here, get added 2D, zoom in. And then I'm going to go up and move it just in front of my player. Like right there looks pretty good to me, yeah. You know what, and just for the sake of it being, I'm so picky, there we go. We'll say 1.2. And then I can drag this in on my input handler down here. Okay, cool, so we have a place for the Raycast to come out. We have a layer for it to scan on. Now we actually have to make some substance. So this Raycast is coming out of our player, and it's looking for anything that has the backstab layer. So let's go to our combat colliders on our enemy here, and let's create an empty game object. I'm going to call this the Backstab Collider. And as you can guess, this is what we're going to be looking for when we're sending our Raycast. So I'm going to move that just behind the enemy here. That looks good to me. Maybe add a bit more, say minus 0.3. Perfect. Then I'm going to add a box collider. And let's make that the size that you want the Backstab Collider to be. So I'm going to go into this ISO view here, and I'm going to pull it right back and make it very thin, exceedingly thin. No need to make it thick. And then let's make it a bit more inward so it's not so wide. I'll say like at just about shoulder length should be fine. You want it to be not too easy to backstab somebody, but also not ridiculously complicated either. Alright, that looks good to me. So we're going to do a couple more things here now. Let's go to the enemy manager script. Or the character manager, rather. Let's jump to that. We're going to make a public box collider. I'm going to call that Backstab Collider. So that is the collider we just created. And just to keep things consistent, we're also going to make this on our player too, because anything we do to our enemy, we want to be able to do it to our player. For example, we want our player to be able to be backstabbed. So let's copy and paste that on our player. And let's reset the transform. So I'm going to paste, you can't paste as a child in this version of Unity. So I'm just going to paste right here, and then I'm going to click Reset Transform, and I'm going to pull that up and out a little bit. It was on 1.25 and minus 3. Okay, good. Excellent. Now let's click on our player. Let's go to our player manager, and as you can see, there's a Backstab Collider variable now we just created. Let's drag that in. And then let's do the same on our enemy. Okay, so we have a Raycast that searches for a Backstab Collider. We have a Backstab Collider all on its own. What else do we need? Well, first let's make this neater and say header. I'm going to say combat colliders. So this looks nice and a bit more organized in our player manager and enemy manager scripts. Let's call this lock on transform. Put a header there. Okay. Let's go now back to the player attacker. So we're going to say character manager, enemy character manager. So we're going to make a variable of type character manager. We're going to say equals hit.transform.gameObject.getComponent in parent. And we're going to look for a character manager. And as you know, our player manager and our enemy manager derive from this. So if it finds either of those, it will still count as a character manager. And then we're going to say if enemy character manager does not equal null. So if we've actually found something with an enemy character manager, then we're going to proceed with our logic. And first, we're going to check for a team ID. So we can't go backstabbing teammates or potentially ourselves through some convoluted way. I'm sure it's possible. So I'm just going to say, so you can't backstab friends or allies, or friends or yourself, question mark. and we'll deal with that in the future because it's not too important at this moment in time. And then we're going to say, pull us into a transform behind the enemy. So the backstab looks clean. And by that I mean, we're going to actually ground ourselves to a certain point behind the enemy when we're doing the backstab animation. So we're not like too far away or too close, etc., etc. And then we're going to rotate ourselves towards that transform of the enemy. Then we're going to play the animation, and we're going to make our enemy play the animation. And of course, we want to do damage to the enemy. So this is essentially the whole backstab functionality right here, greened up. So let's start knocking out these lines. First off, let's go over here and make a script called Backstab Collider. And I will show you why. Let's attach that to the Backstab Collider, the same game object that the box collider is on. Let's throw our namespace up here, SG, and let's erase the start and update functionality. I'm going to say public transform backstabber transform. Actually, backstabber standpoint. So this is where the person who's backstabbing you is going to stand. As we discussed before, we need to lock him in a certain transform. I'm also going to reference that script now. So let's say private backstab collider. Backstab collider. I see what I've done here now. The collider itself is named that as well, and so is the script. Okay, well, you can change the naming convention. I'm just going to rename the actual box collider itself. I'm going to say backstab box collider versus backstab collider. That might get confusing, so feel free to change the name of that. I call it something different on my other project too. Alright, so now, as you can see, we have a backstabber point. But first, let's go on our manager scripts, our enemy manager and our character manager, and let's actually call that backstab collider script. Not the backstab box collider, the backstab collider. Oh, and I can't reference that here for some reason. Oh, wait a second. I know why. I made it private. Let's change that to protected. And let's go to the enemy manager, and we're going to say backstab collider. Yes, there we go. Equals get component in children, backstab collider. Let's do the same on the player manager scripts to keep it consistent. Again, we're doing this so we can also backstab the player if need be. So let's call that in the wake here. Backstab collider equals get component in children, backstab collider. And then I'm going to add that script to the player's backstab collider game object as well. And we're actually going to set up a point now. So let's create an empty. I'm going to call this combat transforms. And I'm going to create another empty game object under that. I'm going to call this the, you call it the backstabber standpoint. You call it the critical attack standpoint. I call it backstabber standing position. I'm going to put that behind, I'd say right there. It looks pretty good. Say minus 0.75. And I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that on the enemy as well. Resetting the transform, of course. And if we reset the transform, the main game object, it should be just behind him if we click the other one. Yep, there it is. Okay, so now we got to drag in the backstabber standing position game objects on each character. So this will be, again, where the person who is backstabbing you is going to stand when we actually perform the backstab. I'm going to change that to point, not position, because I like keeping my game objects the same name as the variables in the scripts. That way, if they ever come on, if they ever become null, I know right where to search in the hierarchy, so it's easy to find them. Okay, now we have that. So what's next? So let's knock out this code here. We're going to say player manager dot transform dot position is equal to, you can do a lerp if you want, but you're going to be so close anyway, it should not matter. Enemy character dot manager dot backstabber backstabber collider. I need to put this as public. My bad, not protected. All right, public. All right, dot backstab collider dot backstabber standpoint dot position. So essentially, we're just moving our player's position to that exact position to the backstab standpoint. And again, you can use a lerp if you want to make the transition a little smoother, but you're going to be so close to the person's back anyway, it most likely won't matter at all. Next, we're going to say Animator Handler dot play target animation backstab, and I'm going to link these animations at the end of the video where you can get them. A very talented man made them. Very, very talented man. They are exceptional. So We're going to say Animator Handler play target animation backstab true, and then we're going to say enemy character dot get component and children Animator Handler. I think we actually call that an Animator Manager. So this might not work. It was just one moment. We're going to check. But we're going to say get target animation backstabbed. And we're going to say true because it is interacting. You don't need to move out of that. We're locked into that. I need to change some naming conventions on the next video, and we're going to do that. We're going to clean some stuff up. Okay, and then we're going to say vector 3 rotation direction, because now we're going to handle our rotation, equals player manager dot transform dot root dot Euler angles. Okay, so that's our current rotation direction. Then we're going to say rotation direction equals hit dot transform dot position minus player manager dot transform dot position. That's what we want to rotate towards. Rotation direction dot y equals 0. Rotation direction normalize. And we're going to say quaternion TR for target rotation equals quaternion look rotation towards our rotation direction. So that's where we want to rotate. And then quaternion target rotation equals a quaternion slurp between our TR or our player manager dot transform dot rotation, so our current rotation and our new target rotation. And then we're going to make that 500 times time dot delta time, just so you rotate extremely fast. And you can use whatever number you want there. You can just use the rotation speed if you'd like, but make sure it's high. Player manager dot transform dot rotation equals target rotation. Okay, so now we have it, so we rotate towards, we will play the animation, and the enemy should play the animation all on its own. So let's actually check this out. Oh, first we have to assign the layers on the Backstab Colliders. I forgot to do that as well. So let's go to the Combat Colliders, and on the Backstab Colliders here, let's make that both of them their layers. Right now they're character. Let's change them to Backstab. Okay, and I think we got to go to the input handler potentially. Also, the camera right now, because we added some new collisions, you're going to want to change these ignore layers and the environmental layers. I have it set now. As I just showed you, you can change those to the settings I just had. I know we call it in the start, but I'm actually going to delete that start method off video, and I'm going to just make them public and edit them in-game on the fly. So I have these backstab animations. I'm just going to change this name to backstab, and this one to backstabbed. I'm going to drag them in here. I'm going to make a transition. Move them up here first. Back to empty. And again, I will link these animations in the end of the video. So, on the player model here, what am I looking for? I think we're all good, actually. Oh, no, we actually have to make the RB, the right bumper attack. Right now, it's just, let's make it a tap. Otherwise, when we go to hold RB, we'll do a regular attack first. So change RB to tap. That way, it only will use a light attack if you tap it. And you're not going to do a light attack when you go to backstab. And then we're going to erase this right here, and oh, why did I name that wrong? Oh, it's probably private. Yes, we're going to make attempt backstabber post public. Save that, go back on the input handler. Player attacker dot attempt backstabber post. Excellent, and I think we have to call handle critical attack input up here on the tick inputs. Yes, we do. Handle critical attack input. Okay, now we should be good. Let's try this. Okay, so let's see the error. Yeah, okay, Animator Handler. See, this is where my naming conventions get confusing. So a long time ago, we made an Animator Handler for the player, and we want to make one for the enemy. The enemy is actually called Enemy Animator Manager, but it derives from Animator Manager, and our Animator Handler also derives from Animator Manager. So later on, I'm going to change the name of Animator Handler to Player Animator Manager, and then the enemies to Enemy Animator Manager, because they both derive from Animator Manager. Hope that's not confusing. So now if we go up behind this enemy, we should be able to backstab him, and yes, we do. Excellent. Don't mind that error. That's just because I have an animation event on these animations from my other project. Okay, but we can make it look a lot better. Right now, he's just jumping up real quick. Because I have these animations chopped up, I'm going to add in the other animations that I made from these. So when you get the animation package on Unity, if you decide to go with it, it will look a bit different than mine because I have mine sectioned off a little. So first I'm going to make it so there's no real blend time from the empty. And that looks a bit better, but you can see he's going to snap up instantly. This is because I have these other animations that will tell me if he's dead, he's not going to get up. And if he's alive, he will get back up. So I'm going to drag these in here. Going to edit the names of them to make them look a bit more in with the naming conventions. So backstabbed, death, backstab, get up. Going to add a parameter on the animator for is dead, which I will link in the next video. And then I'm going to create a transition to get up or dead from the backstab. So depending on if you're dead, you're either going to get back up or not. And then I'm going to break that transition back to the empty state. So backstab is only going to go to backstab, get up, or backstab to death. And then on backstab, get up, we're going to say, yeah, you're going to get up if is dead equals false. And if you're dead, we're going to play the death animation. So is dead equals true. And then from backstab to get up, we're going to make a transition back to the empty state. And from backstab death, we're not. You're just going to be stuck in that animation. So let's go in game and test that. And this should be the final time we jump in. It should look fine after this. I'm going to start the game, go over to our lovely volunteer here. Going to backstab him, and he's going to go to the ground. Excellent. He's going to get back up, and excellent. Okay, so now let's go to his model and tick is dead. We can trigger it later on, so his health goes below 0. This will do it automatically. But we're going to tick it here manually for now, and we'll go back in the game, and we'll go behind him, and we'll backstab him. And then he should stay on the ground. And yes, he does. All right, guys, we have a backstab system. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned something from it, be sure to drop a like. It genuinely helps my series get around, and I appreciate it very much. If you're feeling generous, leave a comment below to appease the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're feeling like a total champion, check out my Patreon below. All support is appreciated. I've linked the animations below for the backstab animations. They also come with some cool parry and repost animations, along with some other things. They're done, as I said before, by a very talented man. You should check out his asset store page and show him some support. And I will see you guys on the next video, where we cover backstab damage and a couple other nice little polishing effects.